Live from Big 12 Media Days in Arlington, now joined by Baylor football coach Dave Aranda. What was the most exciting thing you've done this summer?
That's a hard one. I think there's been a lot of reflection, I think. You know, sometimes when you're not, most of the time, when you're not doing stuff is when the best ideas come, you know. And there's things that when you're working so fast and you're doing this and that, and there's things that are down the road that are kind of hovering above, they can settle and kind of find their own place. And you have the words come to you to kind of describe and make sense of all of it. So some of that's taken place, and I think, you know, it's while that's happening, which I think is a cool thing, you still want to, like, you know, your family time and all of that, and so you try to manage that. But I think there's been a lot of reading for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking 2 courses, like online courses, so I'm doing that, and I do that in the morning prior to everyone else getting up, and then you know, planning for fall camp, and you know, in terms of themes and talks and all of it. So, yeah.
What kind of online courses are you taking?
There's an author. He's a Franciscan friar named Richard Rohr, and so one of the courses was the Franciscan Way. I just finished that. Then there's another one called the Immortal Diamond. There's a book by the same name. So I'm in that one right now, and so I take a lot of notes on that, and then you know, find ways to incorporate all of it. I think the trick is the learning stuff's cool for me. Like, I could do that all day, but it's applying, you know, and it's one thing to think, it's another thing to do, and so that's football gives you a great opportunity for that. You know, what I'm talking to you about is what I would like for our team to do, our players, and so I think all of it kind of fits in a way.
How much now in your third year, and really the first year was so different with COVID, but how much now are the leaders on the team teaching what Dave Aranda taught them?
There's more of that. Yeah, I think at this point last year there probably wasn't very much of that. And I think that was kind of, you know, I think winning probably helped the most with that. And I think that, you know, it's probably good. It's probably a weakness of mine. I'm probably too idealist. I think for everyone else, it would take winning. You know, I probably might be the only one that's going, well, it just makes sense. You should try it. This is good. It'd be good for you. This would be the right thing to do, to try to be better and to try to, you know, help other people and stuff. But I think for a fair amount, it's like, what does this have to do with football, you know? And so I think the winning really helped. So there's more of that now. And I think, especially with the freshmen coming in, it's that communication is real, and it's it's not fake, and so I'm way proud of that.
I know one thing that you wanted to drive home in the spring was, I mean, you guys celebrated and had fun with what you did last year, but this is a new team. This is new leaders, and you're speaking to that. New quarterback starting with Blake. Do you think that's sunk in with those guys at this point, that, hey, last year was fun, being here again is cool, but that really has nothing to do with what you're doing now?
I feel that. You know, I think the coaches are a part of that too, and I think it's probably been a little bit more with them than with the team. But overall, I think it's human nature. You're fighting, and then you're outnumbered in that fight. You know, from when they go home to what's on their phones, to their families, to what's on TV, and so it's like a whole thing. You know, so you gotta be way intentional about the time that you have. The things that you say and how you do and all that it has a lot of meaning to it, because you have to make it count. And so I feel good about it. The summer workouts have been way strong. Right now our big guys are in a fight because the heat's got them. It's about that time of summer, so they're right up against it. I think Vic does a great job. I know he does, of pushing guys and, you know, and getting guys to mature in their own way. And so all that's happening right now, and that's going to be a strong thing. You know, we got some youth in the back end, and so we're going to have to play 2 high safeties to start, and the front is going to have to eat up gaps. You have to play a gap and a half. You know, on the offensive line, we're going to have to be able to run the ball, to throw it, I think, to build with the young guys and just all of it, and build that confidence to where maybe we can flip that in a couple games in, but to start, you know, no matter what it is, a running formation, we're going to run it anyways. You know, I think all that stuff has to happen. that ain't going to happen if we can't get through a Thursday, run at whatever time.
If you had a team back, it's impossible almost to have everything back, from skill people to linemen. You have your offense and defensive line, almost everybody's back. You have the quarterback back, but you don't have a lot of skill people back with the guys, the ball hawks in the secondary. But is it better to have who you do have back with the experience rather than the other way?
Yeah, I think you would want inside out.
Yeah.
So you'd want from the inside that whether it's the D-line, the linebackers, you'd love to have a center fielder. If it's offensively, you'd love to have an O-line, a quarterback, and a running back, some type of be strong inside there. So we have some of that. But then I think, there is a fair amount of talent and a fair amount of belief within the team in the talent. And so I feel good about how that's progressing.
Dave Aranda, Baylor football coach, with us, Big 12 Media Days here in Arlington.
You said yourself you're always learning, taking classes, for example. But football-wise, was there anything that stood out to you this offseason that you watched, or a certain coach, certain style that maybe tickled your interest a little bit?
Yeah, I don't know if we've talked about this, but Georgia last year had a fair amount of veterans up front on defense, and I think that they are a creeper team like us, and so finding creative ways to rush four guys, and so whether it's a linebacker or a corner or a safety, some on the line of scrimmage guy inserting into the rush to attack a protection or to attack a blocking scheme, and I think the thought there is to try to get more bang for your buck and play all your base coverages and do all the stuff you need to do. And so they, like us, are built that way. But then last year, with the amount of veterans that they had, or got experience coming back is probably the better word, for them up front, they rushed 5 more than they ever have. I mean, their numbers were way strong in that percentage. And I went through their season, and it's interesting because I think they did it because of the talent and the one-on-ones, And so I've talked to Ron about that quite a bit. With our defense, it's like our ability to get those one-on-ones for guys, because that is a strength. And so, that's another way of looking at it. The way I gave earlier was one way of looking at the strength, and that is kind of put more weight on the shoulders of the D-line to kind of, manage and let's matriculate the talent in the back end. The other way is let the big dogs eat.
Yeah.
And so that makes a lot of sense from Georgia. The other thing I would say would be Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and a fair amount of, Tampa, so cover 2, so true zones. And I think, college football has kind of come around to the true zones. And I think Ron Roberts has been there for a while. But, I think the rest of college football has kind of come that way. And, the NFL at a time, there was a time where the NFL was, hey, this is zone, this is man. And then I think what ended up becoming was match cover 3, and, whether it was the Seattle Seahawks, this is kind of during their reign of like, is it, and then I think Saban had an impact on this too, of like, if it's a vertical, you're carrying it. If they're crossing, you zone it off. And is it man, is it zone? Well, it depends on the route. I think some of that is really, it's now getting to more just man and zone. And so the vision that comes with it, and we're a huge zone team. You look at all the picks and everything we had last year, a lot of it was it's all zone. It's all vision, on the ball, breaking and playing a zone and a half. And so I think Tampa Bay did a great job at that with their Tampa creepers. I thought they were really I watched Devin White a lot and was able to see a bunch. I watched through their whole season, and they did a great job of showing single high, getting to too high off of it, playing too high with a corner as a half defender. So there's a fair amount. I think, if you don't keep up with it, it'll pass you by way fast.
Do you pick the brain of former players? Like you mentioned Devin?
Yeah.
He can even sometimes, not so much teach you, but kind of give you an idea what they were thinking?
Oh, no, yeah. He can teach for sure. I mean, Jacob Phillips is with Cleveland, Patrick Queens with Baltimore. And so, yeah, I think, just their experience and, how something is taught, even if it's something that maybe I'm familiar with how they're teaching it, or how they're responding to that teaching is so instructive. And so I think listening can be a superpower if you let it.
What's easier, getting there to the top of the mountain in the case of winning the Sugar Bowl, the Big 12 championship, or keeping it and staying there?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think they're both difficult. I think in both ways, you've got to let, I feel like, you're almost coming from two different ways to the same thing. One you're, the emperor has no clothes. The other way, it's like, get the crown off my head and get all this, and I need to live a life of poverty, So I think in either way, you want people to fully be available, and that's just so hard to do, man. I think, if it's, I think of like I think of our coaches, for example. One of the things in January was like, we talk about stop counting. So like I do this quite a bit. I know most people do, and I think it makes great. If you're a fan, you do this a lot. Of like, I like this, I don't like that. This is good, this is bad, right? This is a good player, this is a bad player. And we label stuff and we categorize stuff, right? And then I think what ends up happening when you do that, though, is you don't include, and you don't. It's almost like an imprint on your mind that when the right circumstance comes, it fully comes to light. But you've been holding it, inherent in you, and then something else happens, and now, why does all this hate come from this to this person? Well, you've been having it in you. It's almost like the old Polaroid pictures you used to take, right? Where it's the negative, it's in the negative, and then once the light hits it, the chemicals come, and there's your picture. So like the fight against labeling, the fight against, you're in, you're out. I think our superpower at Baylor can be, what other people see as not big enough, what other people see is not fast enough, what other people see is not tough enough, any of those things. If we can, include that, we can forgive that, and really incorporate that. I mean, that disadvantage can be an advantage, and it's just very hard. I don't. It's stuff you don't tweet out, Yeah. But I think it's stuff that works because people are seeing now, is what you're saying.
Right.
People are valued now.
Right.
And now you get a whole different person. But it's very difficult, especially if you're coming off of a win where it's this. And so I think there was some of that this year where we had to work through that.
You got a lot of attention last year as you guys went on your run, and you're obviously not craving attention or seeking it out. What was that like for you? And you're suddenly into the spotlight more than ever before. Did you find yourself getting more comfortable with it? Did you find yourself enjoying it at all, or were you just desperately wishing to not be on camera as much as you were?
Yeah, I think the hard thing about being on camera is like how I look on camera. Yeah. So it's like, oh man.
I know.
And then I know, like, hearing this, it just sounds like someone's like whispering like a good night moon or something. So it's like all of it's just so frustrating. I just wish it'd be so different. So I think I have to kind of make peace with that a little bit. It's hard to do, though, because it's so critical of yourself and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I think there's what I do enjoy about it is that I think that our team and the people around us can believe that can be me, that I can do it. Like, this time last year there was no thought of, whatever came could come, that would be for other people. That's not our brand. That's for that other brand, or that's for that other helmet, or that's for that, And so that's what's cool about it.
You're comfortable right now. You the first year was crazy. The second year was an adrenaline rush. Baylor allows you to be Dave Aranda, doesn't it?
I think so. I think there's enough space between the academic, the high academic achievements and standards, along with the Christianity and the spiritual growth and living with your faith out in front. There's enough in their room for me to be me, and I think that is such a strong thing. I think we've talked before. Like, I learn more than what I teach, and I think you see. I mean, there's different things. I think like I would have never thought. So everyone that was here, our team, we go out to eat at a steak restaurant last night. So we're with the players that are here, and I don't know about you guys, but when I would go somewhere, normally I would sit, and if I were to pick a place, I would sit in the corner with my back to the wall, so I could see everything.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so I get in, and there is a seat back there, but there's a seat that's facing the door, and so I don't know if the door is right behind me. We're in a private room, so the door would open up. So I took that seat, and I think the whole thing was kind of like just I never would have thought like this before. I never would have thought of like trying to I'm going to be okay. And I think like my son wants the same seats I get. And so I've been trained now by him. When we go to a restaurant, he will take the seat and kind of like, give me a little of this. And at first I'd go, Ronan, get up, and I'll do it. But now I'm like, okay, I just sit over here and it's fine. It works out okay, And so I think like seeing the whole thing like that, I think is Baylor's helped me with. I don't know if that makes any sense. But,
Sure it does.
Yeah.
No, there's certain people that will sit. Yeah, I think that we all pick and choose what we're comfortable, where we're comfortable sitting, and maybe, that makes a lot of sense.
Get out of your comfort zone a little bit and adjust, and you find out, hey, it's not that bad once you try it. And I guess that kind of sort of leads me into this. Blake Shapen being your quarterback now. You talked back in the spring about, obviously Gary was a great leader and a great example setter and things like that. And I know Blake was doing well with that during the spring, but do you see him finding another comfort zone with his personality and kind of how he has to be now as that guy?
Yeah, there's been opportunities so far with Summer where, there's been a hard run and maybe we're below the standard, and Blake calls him up and, gets in their face and does all of it. And so, like, all of that is well needed, and it's it's a natural thing, and I think he's on the course, right? He's on his way, and so I'm excited to see his maturation with that. I think he's means a lot to him, I know, and I think he had such a great teacher in Gary that he's going to do just fine.
Yeah, he was the ultimate leader, wasn't Gary? The guy everyone. You can't raise your hand and be a leader. That's got to be something where they accept you as that, right? You can't say, I'm the leader. That would be damaging.
That's correct. Yeah, I think you have to model what you're saying. I think you have to do that. And then I think you have to, you have to live it in there are no such thing as time off. So there's not a time card with that stuff. It's the in-betweens. That's where the eyes will be on you probably the most.
One thing, do you pay attention to all this college football landscape change? How much does that get into your comfort zone?
It shows up some in recruiting now, I think, especially in some of the fights that we're in with some of the aforementioned other leagues. And so I think, you have to address it there. But I think, change is always hard, I imagine, and I think within change there's always great possibilities. So I'm way excited about our league, and I'm way excited about our commissioner, and I'm way excited about the teams that are going to enter our league. I think, I look at this season, and you go through that schedule, like every game is going to be a dogfight, every game. And I think for the people that just don't know the Big 12 or just don't really watch it too much, they don't understand the culture that's inherent in, and then the road environments that we're going to be going into. And so I think there's a lot to be proud of, and so I'm way proud of our league.
Do you have any idea when y'all are going to start fall practices yet?
Yeah, so we start that I think it was at the 4th of August we get back, and so there's still about a couple weeks for the staff kind of enjoy some time. And our players are going, and they'll go for about another couple days, and then they'll have about 5 days prior to the start of some time off, maybe go back home if they're in the state to go see their families, and then we're off. So excited for it.
It's you got a little time left to decompress, and then every day.
Yeah,
every day.
It used to be for me when I was an assistant. It used to be the Major League All-Star game. That was kind of the sign.
Yeah.
Once that was kind of the end of summer. But for now, me, it's this. So, yeah, we're about there.
Thank you for always giving us access. We really do appreciate you. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Dave Aranda, Baylor football coach, Sic'Em 365 Radio and 365 Sports.